Thank you so much for staying with us. It is a Tuesday edition of Morning Delight if you're just joining us, and it is a highly interactive segment, open access, where, of course, we declare phone lines open for you to be part of the conversation. 081-1266-8143 is the only line you can get through with a voice conversation. If you want to send your SMS or WhatsApp messages, you can use this number only, 080-330-65681. No calls on this number, only 081-1266-8143, as can't take calls for now. We will be talking national security versus the rule of law. One of the tenets of a democratically drafted constitution is the rule of law, which negates the rule of force and other primordial sentiments. The rule of law is held aloft because it is thought to be the pillar bearing the limitations, the freedom and responsibility of all citizens. But at some point, there is a seeming conflict between that and national security. And we've seen it in Nigeria happen over the years, especially in 2018. I think the president had made a comment at the Barr Association conference that, look, the national security sometimes could supersede the rule of law. And the presidency has had the particular case, the Asari Dokubo versus the federal government, as that's what it hinges its argument on most times, as with the case ongoing with the federal government and Nnamdi Kanu as we speak. The case, as I said, is in court, and we will have to deal with this issue in a way so we don't stand contempt of court. So we'll be talking national security and rule of law. When does one leave way for the other? When does it come together? Or when does one supersede the other? I've been joined by a legal practitioner. You all know I'm not a lawyer. So it's the lawyer that will be asking these questions this morning. Mr. Bosun Osifowora is a friend of the house, a lawyer and a political analyst. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, so this matter has been on for a very long time. It's what we've dealt with. During the military junta, it was no brainer that, okay, I mean, they're an outfit or force. So most times the court judgments and all were most cases ignored and not respected, because naturally, due to their nature of service, nature of training, national security is what is paramount to them and their calling. But here we are, democratic setting, and the case still comes up again. I think in 2018, yeah, I'm very sure that happened. And now with Nnamdi Kanu's case, the case has come up again. National security versus rule of law. When does one leave way for the other one, and which it supersedes the other, really?
All right, I think we should just put it in perspective. It's not a question of one giving way for the other. I mean, if you don't want to have chaos in a society, definitely you have to give vent to the rule of law. But at the same time, protection of the people, property, general security is just as important as how law thrives in a society. In fact, they work together. Now, but there are instances where not necessarily a clash, but what you have is a case of which one is more expedient in this circumstance. And if you look at the Nnamdi Kanu's case, you saw what transpired at the lower court, then they went on appeal, and then the panel said that he was wrongfully, forcefully extradited, and then also, the whole thing that came with it, that in fact it should be compensated to some large amount and everything. And then the government felt, okay, no, this is just appeal court. And you know how it works until you get to the Supreme Court before you can say, okay, this thing can actually rest, So, and then they appealed the judgment, and they predicated that on the fact that Nnamdi Kanu is a security threat and
a flight risk as well.
Flight risk, security threat, and all that. And that's left for the Supreme Court to decide. And then also, because there's a pending judgment by the Court of Appeal, I mean, they expect that that should be followed. But then the government came up with the position that, say, this man is a security problem to us. And it's not like we're asking
that's understandable. I mean, you have to go by antecedents.
Yes, so given what is happening in the East, we cannot make pretensions about the fact of what is happening in the East. Businesses are grounded, wanton killings and destruction every day and all that. And some of these people claim a certain level of loyalty to this gentleman. And, at the end of the day, the number one business of the government is protection of the citizens. And you see, if we look at it from that angle, every other thing can come second. And the reason is this: if you go for rule of law in a place where things are not secure, even the law won't thrive. Even the law won't find a pedestal to rest on. Now, so that's what the argument of the government is. At the same time, that is not saying that at every point in time you can come up under, security alert and everything and jettison the rule of law. But it's a very sensitive issue. And then we'll just hope that the Supreme Court will put paid and rest to the entire matter. But as it stands, the argument of the government is plausible. Then also the argument of the fundamental rights of the people, of the citizens, as enshrined in the Constitution, is also very, very fundamental. So you're looking at a case of which one is more fundamental than the other one.
And also striking a balance between...
Yes, and with the reference to the Asari Dokubo versus federal government case, the court actually made us realize that, say, security comes first before every other thing. If nothing is secure, nothing can rest on insecurity. So if we come from that premise, then we can say that the argument of the government is more plausible. And also, if you juxtapose it with what is happening in the East, we cannot pretend we don't know what's happening. Once upon a time, it used to be Northeast. The Northeast is now, getting very relatively okay. And then now we're moving to the Eastern, Southeast. And it's to say, for want of better description, it's crazy.
All right. We can't have this conversation without also taking a look at other groups, other individuals who have also risen up from various quarters against the state. Sunday Igboho's case still in our minds, but for what happened to him at Benin Republic, he's still there. That case has nothing to do with Nigeria as we speak. However, he's still there, answering and waiting for his day in court. What makes it easy, or what are those issues around the nation in Nigeria that makes it so easy for people, individuals, groups to rise up? And why does it look like they're not being listened to, or no one is listening to them to get to this point where they have to rise up with arms now against the state?
There are two angles to this thing. And I'll just make it very simple. There's the general agitation that is influenced or that is predicated on the situation of the people, discontent, economic situation, social insecurity, all these things, people come together and say, no, we can't continue like this. This is not the kind of Nigeria we all look forward to. There's general discontent that is influenced based on economic imbalance, based on social insecurity, and a whole lot of things that actually fuel the discontent. That's on one hand. Then you have the second set, or the second type of agitation, which is sponsored by certain elements that you can classify as enemies of the state. Now, but you see, sometimes these two now find a rallying point in the fact that, you know, there's general discontent. People, I mean, things are, before we came on, we were talking about cost of living is high. And then, apart from being high, people are going silently crazy. Things are getting out of reach of people. So it's very easy to, you know, galvanize such people and put them. So the other elements that I've talked about now, people who are enemies of the state, who want to topple the government for whatever reason, you know, they just ride on these agitations by people, and then you find a cohesion, and then the next thing is a conflagration. So that's what you have. Now, but you see, we should be able to separate the two, but sometimes it's very hard to, you know, to dichotomize and see, okay, this is, you just have a case of mixed multitude. Those who actually want to destroy the state, those who have legitimate yearnings and all that. So when these two come together, it's very hard. And that's why you find, now, but you see, the implication is this. One of the things, I think government needs to step up. One, in their social responsibility, and also in quelling these insurgencies. The reason is this. The moment people start, and you see, when insurgency takes ethnic or religious coloration, it becomes very hard to deal with. And if government doesn't step up on time or come up with definite solutions, it will blow out of their, I mean, it will blow in their face, and it might go out of control. Now, one of the things, I'll give you, I was talking yesterday with a friend, and generally there's economic crisis almost in every country. And my friend was telling me, he lives in the UK, and he said that the energy crisis, the energy bill was just going up and all that. And then he just woke up, I think about 2 weeks ago, and they sent money to, you know, almost everybody, that just to cushion the thing. We don't have such palliative, such measures here. You know, things just go up. And so I was talking to someone yesterday, he said he went to buy snail, and something that used to be 20 in the pack is now 30,000, 35,000. And he said he asked the woman that, why? He said, $1. And you know, she now said that what has dollar got to do with the price of snail? You don't import the snail. But you know, I now explain to them, the way it works is that at the end of the day, all of us go to the same market. The same person selling this thing still buys some imported thing. So at the end of the day, the only place they can come to is, I can only increase my own price to cushion the effect. But government is not doing anything in that regard. Now, at the end of the day, you now find that when people come out and start saying, we're suffering, government is not looking in our direction, the other elements will join in. And then once you have pockets of discontent, you know, people coming up like this, it is bad for the nation, it is bad for the polity. Because what you will have is that, imagine if there's, you alluded to Igboho, the way it was going. If that thing wasn't nipped, it was going to become something else. He too looked at it that, you know, he started his own agitation, then they were like Yoruba nation. Then the next thing they were like, we want to break away. Then you have it in the east. The north is just as restive as it is. So at the end of the day, you wouldn't have any nation to govern. So that's where, if you talk rule of law in that regard, rule of law has no the people.
All right, let's take some messages. For how long? Our military men go outside to defend our other countries. Why can't they make this country safe for someone? Last week, even in my hometown, lots were kidnapped along the road, demanding plenty money. Now, no money anywhere. People are very, very hungry. I do appreciate that, Mrs. Okpe. Thank you for your comment. Olatunde Olayinka, the strength of a nation lies in her rule of law, foreign policy, diplomacy, and national security, respectively. Nevertheless, the purpose of every law on national security is to protect his or her own citizens. The question is, which of these have the federal government of Nigeria gotten right? Can you beat a child and still deny him or her the right to cry? That's for you. Okay, Kanu's release. The present federal government control the law and judgment. No matter the ruling of the highest court of Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria will only decide if and when to release Kanu.
That's
and
not
to
correct.
release him.
That's not correct.
Even if the UN court gives order for his release, it will not rightly be obeyed. We must look for one reason to hold him, not only Kanu's, but every other high-level judgment from Anabaronye. The lawyer says that is not correct.
That is not correct.
Mr. Osifowora has responded to you. All right, I have this. This is in Yoruba. Okay. I'm hungry. I can't read this one. All right, good morning, lawyer. You base the security as what justified government refusing to release Kanu against the court of law judgment. Please, if the Supreme Court eventually rules in favor of Kanu, will the government still hold him, even with the security challenge in the South?
No, at that level, see, we need to understand.
So here we quickly have to take a break.
All right.
Let's quickly take this break. We will be asking the question again posed to Mr. Osifowora when we come back from this break.